Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at setting up and working with our drive-by-wire throttle control in the next few training modules. This training module, we're going to dig into setting up our Excel pedal position sensor assembly, which is part of our drive-by-wire control system. We need to make sure that we have it wired properly, we have it configured properly, and calibrated properly so we can rely on this as a signal coming into the Motec to translate into a throttle position opening at the drive-by-wire throttle body itself. So we have a couple different tutorials talking about each calibration process along the way, just so this is a little bit more digestible to set up and work with drive-by-wire. Let's jump in here and take a look at the fundamentals, what we need to know in order to understand what we're going to be working with in this training module and understanding what we have in terms of our components for a drive-by-wire control system. So coming up on screen, I have a schematic that's going to go over the wiring that I have for my particular vehicle here. I'm using an M150. My vehicle is a Honda EP3 chassis. I'm using a Honda K-Series engine, and I'm using a Nissan 350Z Excel pedal assembly, and my throttle body is a Hitachi Nissan 350Z throttle body. Now, the reason why I used this pedal and throttle body assembly is simply because I had it available to me. So you can use pretty much any pedal and any throttle body assembly. What we need to understand here is how to calibrate things and understanding the fundamentals. So what we're going to do here is go through the schematic coming up on screen, and we're going to take a look at some of the wiring fundamentals here and then talk about how to calibrate the Excel pedal position sensor assembly. It's very straightforward, but this is going to be something we definitely have to understand in terms of that components and the wiring. So looking at this schematic, this is going to be more referencing an OEM type of wiring, but what we can find and take away from this is it's still going to be relevant for what we're doing in this training module. So what we're going to find is we have a couple different components here on the schematic. We're going to see we have battery, we have a throttle motor relay, which we're not using in our control strategy here. We're going to have a throttle body, we're going to have Excel pedal assembly, and then we have our ECU with all the inputs and outputs. Now in this case, obviously the ECU would be an M150, the Excel pedal assembly is a Nissan 350Z, the throttle body assembly is going to be Nissan 350Z. So looking here at the components we're going to have within the structuring for drive-by-wire, our throttle body is going to have a servo motor, and it's going to be what controls the blade open or closed. Pretty straightforward. So that's going to be the plus and minus on our aux output 9 and 10. It controls either in the positive or negative direction for opening and closing. Then we have our throttle position sensors on the throttle body itself. There's two throttle position sensors. OEM manufacturers always have two for redundancy so that if one fails, there's a backup strategy. Then we move on to our Excel pedal assembly, and that's what we're working with in this training module for configuration and setup. In the Excel pedal schematic here, we're going to have two throttle position sensors, just like the throttle body, and the throttle position sensors will be labeled a main and a sub. The main is your primary output from your pedal assembly. The sub is going to be the secondary. Again, it allows the tracking in case one throttle position sensor in the Excel pedal assembly goes bad. We have another as a backup. So looking in our schematic here, we're going to have two signal wires, one from the main, one from the sub. Then we're going to have a 5-volt out, which is going to be the power reference for all four throttle position sensors. Then we'll also have our sensor ground, which is also going to provide sensor ground to all four throttle position sensors. Now on my Motec M150, I have three 5-volt power references, and I also have three 0-volt or sensor ground outputs that we're able to utilize. So in this case, I've used my 5-volt reference B option for my wiring for the Motec. There's an A, B, and C. I'm using the B 5-volt, and then I'm also using the sensor ground B option as well. It's important that we know what we're using for the sensor ground and the 5-volt because we do have to have the tracking voltage look at that particular sensor ground path, because if there's any fluctuation on the internal 5-volt reference bus bar inside the Motec, it can renormalize the sensor voltages and readings, so we don't have any kind of screwy readings out of either throttle position sensors on the drive-by-wire throttle body or on the Excel pedal position. That can definitely make things go out of whack and definitely not be ideal. So it's important that we know where we have wired the 5-volt reference, either the A, B, or C option, and then the sensor ground 0-volt A, B, or C. All right, so now that we understand, looking at the schematic, we're going to be dealing with two signal wires that we have to configure, and then understanding and knowing which 0 and 5 volt reference option we used for our wiring. Let's now move into configuring and setting this up. In order to work with our Excel pedal assembly and calibration, we're going to go in here from our tuning window under setup and then move across here under I'll calibrate. Now we're going to find in our gigantic list of all the things that we can reference for this particular firmware package. If I go down here, we're going to see we have throttle as an option. Now in here, we're going to find we have pedal, we have position, and we have servo. What we're looking for right now is this pedal setup area here. Right now, our sensor main resource, which would be known as the TPS main for the Excel position assembly, that's going to be what we need to.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.